Sam was a quiet young man who lived alone in a small house near the edge of a tired old town called Millbrook. He worked at a shop that sold old things. People brought in broken clocks, dusty paintings, old books, and strange objects from their grandparents' houses. Sam cleaned them, fixed them, and put them on the shelves. It was not exciting work, but Sam liked it. He liked touching things that had stories hidden inside them. One cold Tuesday morning, a woman came into the shop. She was very old, her back was bent, and she walked slowly with a wooden stick. She wore a long, dark coat and a hat that covered most of her face. She carried a small wooden box under her arm. "I want to sell this," she said. Her voice was dry like old paper. Sam looked at the box. It was made of dark wood, and it had strange markings carved into the top. The markings looked like some kind of language, but Sam had never seen anything like it before. Inside, there was a folded piece of cloth. He lifted the cloth and found a map underneath. The map was old, very old. The paper was thick and yellow, and the edges were torn in some places. It showed rivers, mountains, and forests. There were small drawings of animals and trees along the sides. In the middle of the map, there was a red circle drawn around a place deep inside what looked like a thick forest. Next to the red circle, someone had written one word in small letters. The word was Autumnvale. Sam looked up at the old woman. "What is this?" he asked. The woman smiled. Her teeth were yellow. "It is a map to a place that most people think does not exist," she said. "My grandfather found it many years ago. He tried to follow it, but he never came back. My father tried too. He came back, but he was never the same again." He stopped talking. He just sat by the window and stared at nothing until the day he died. Sam felt a cold feeling move through his body. "Then, why are you selling it?" "Because I am too old to go myself," she said. "And it should not sit in a box forever. Some things want to be found." Sam bought the map for a small amount of money. The old woman took the coins, nodded once, and walked out of the shop. Sam never saw her again. That night, Sam sat at his kitchen table and studied the map under the yellow light of his lamp. He tried to match the rivers and mountains on the map with places he knew. After many hours, he found something. The river on the map looked like the Greywater River, which started about 50 miles north of Millbrook. If that was right, then the forest on the map was the old Blackwood Forest. People in town sometimes talked about Blackwood Forest. They said it was a dangerous place. Animals went in and did not come out. Strange sounds came from deep inside it at night. Nobody went there. Sam put the map down and rubbed his eyes. He told himself he was being foolish. It was just an old piece of paper. Autumnvale was probably just a story. But something inside him would not let it go. He felt a pull, like a rope tied around his chest, pulling him toward that red circle on the map. The next morning, Sam went to the town library. He searched through old books about the area. He found nothing about Autumnvale. He searched through old newspapers. Nothing. He asked Mrs. Palmer, the old librarian, if she had ever heard the name. Mrs. Palmer pushed her glasses up her nose and thought for a long time. "Autumnvale," she said slowly. "I think my grandmother mentioned that name once. She said it was a place where people went to find treasure, gold, jewels, things like that. But she also said that the place did not give its treasure for free. It always took something in return." "What did it take?" Sam asked. Mrs. Palmer shook her head. "She just told me to never go looking for it." Sam thanked her and left the library. The wind was cold outside, and dark clouds were moving across the sky. He walked home slowly, thinking about everything he had heard. The old woman's grandfather who never came back. Her father who lost his voice and his mind. The stories about Blackwood Forest. Mrs. Palmer's grandmother's warning. Any smart person would throw the map away and forget about it. Sam knew that. But Sam also knew something else about himself. He had lived in Millbrook his whole life. He had never gone anywhere or done anything. Every day was the same. Wake up, go to the shop, come home, eat dinner, go to sleep. He was 30 years old, and he had no stories of his own. The map was the most interesting thing that had ever happened to him. By Friday, Sam had made his decision. He would follow the map. He would find Ormvale, or at least he would try. He packed a bag with food, water, a knife, a rope, a small tent, and some matches. He put the map in a waterproof bag and tucked it inside his jacket, close to his chest. He left early on Saturday morning before the sun came up. The streets of Millbrook were empty and dark. His footsteps sounded loud on the stone road. He walked past the shop where he worked, past the library, past the old church with the broken bell tower. He walked until the town was behind him and the open road stretched ahead. The sky turned pink, then orange, then blue. The air was fresh and cold. Sam walked along the main road for several hours, then turned onto a smaller road that headed north. The land around him changed. The flat fields turned into small hills. The grass grew taller. Trees began to appear on both sides of the road. By the afternoon, Sam reached the Greywater River. It was wider than he had expected. The water was dark and moved fast. He stood on the bank and looked at the map. According to the map, he needed to follow the river upstream for about 10 miles, and then he would reach the edge of Blackwood Forest. He started walking along the river. The ground was soft and muddy, and his boots sank with every step. The sound of the water was loud, and sometimes he thought he heard voices in it, like people whispering. He told himself it was just his imagination. As the sun began to go down, Sam found a flat area near the river and set up his small tent. He made a fire and ate some bread and cheese. The night came quickly. The sky filled with stars, more stars than Sam had ever seen in Millbrook. The town lights always hid them. Out here, away from everything, the sky looked like it was made of silver dust. Sam lay in his tent and listened to the sounds of the night. The river, the wind in the trees, an owl somewhere in the distance. And then, just before he fell asleep, it was a low sound, like a drum beating slowly, coming from far away to the north, coming from the direction of Blackwood Forest. Sam closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow, he would reach the forest. Tomorrow, his real journey would begin. Sam woke up before dawn. The air was thick and wet, and a white fog covered the river and the land around it. He packed his tent quickly, ate a piece of dried meat, and started walking again. The drumming sound from the night before was gone. The only sound now was the river and his own breathing. He walked for hours. The land became wilder as he moved north. The trees grew taller and closer together. The path along the river became narrow, and thorny bushes scratched his arms and legs. By midday the sky had turned gray, and a light rain began to fall. Then he saw it. Blackwood Forest. It rose up ahead of him like a dark wall. The trees were enormous. Their trunks were black, and their branches twisted together high above, blocking out the sky. The ground at the edge of the forest was covered in thick moss and fallen leaves. A strange smell came from inside, like wet earth and something sweet that Sam could not name. Sam stood at the edge and looked in. The forest was dark, even though it was the middle of the day. He could see about 20 feet inside, and then everything became shadows. He took out the map and studied it. According to the map, he needed to go straight into the forest, following a small stream that branched off from the river. The stream would lead him to Ormvale. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The moment he entered the forest, the world changed. The sound of the river disappeared. The rain stopped, or maybe the trees above were so thick that no rain could get through. The air was warm and still. Sam's footsteps made no sound on the soft ground. It was like walking into another world. He found the stream quickly. It was small and clear, and it moved slowly through the trees like a silver snake. He followed it deeper into the forest. The trees grew even taller. Some of them had strange shapes. One looked like a man with his arms raised. Another looked like a woman, sitting down. Sam told himself they were just trees, but he could not stop looking at them. After about 2 hours of walking, Sam heard a sound. It was not the drumming from the night before. It was something else. A voice. Someone was singing. Sam stopped and listened. The voice was soft and low, and it came from somewhere ahead. He moved carefully toward the sound, stepping over roots and ducking under branches. The stream curved to the left, and Sam followed it around a large rock. On the other side of the rock, sitting on a fallen tree trunk, was a girl. She looked about 25 years old. She had short brown hair and dark eyes. She wore a green jacket and brown boots that were covered in mud. A large bag sat on the ground next to her. She was singing a song that Sam did not know, and she was holding a small bird in her hands. The bird had a broken wing. She saw Sam and stopped singing. She did not look afraid. She looked at him the same way she might look at a deer that had walked out of the trees. "You are following the map too," she said. It was not a question. Sam felt his mouth open, but no words came out for a moment. "How did you know about the map?" he finally asked. The girl smiled. "Because there is more than one copy. My name is Lena. My mother had a map just like yours. She got it from a traveler who came through our village 10 years ago. She kept it hidden in a drawer, but I found it when I was 15. I have been planning this trip ever since." Sam sat down on a rock across from her. "Your mother did not try to follow it?" "No. She was too afraid. She said Aramvale was a trap. She said people go in and they do not come back the same." Lena looked down at the bird in her hands. She gently wrapped a piece of cloth around its wing. "But I do not think it is a trap. I think it is a test." "A test for what?" Sam asked. "I do not know yet. That is why I am going." They sat together for a while and shared food. Sam gave Lena some of his bread, and she gave him some dried fruit from her bag. The bird sat on Lena's shoulder and made small sounds. Sam told Lena about the old woman who sold him the map, about her grandfather who disappeared, and her father who lost his mind. Lena listened carefully. "My mother told me similar stories," she said. "She said that Aramvale shows you something about yourself, something true, and some people cannot live with the truth." They decided to travel together. 2 people were better than 1 in a place like this. As they walked deeper into the forest, following the stream, the trees became stranger. Some had bark that looked like skin. Others had leaves that were not green, but dark red, almost black. The air grew warmer, and there was a low humming sound all around them, like the forest itself was breathing. "Do you hear that?" Sam asked. "I have been hearing it since I entered the forest," Lena said. "It gets louder the deeper you go." By evening, they found a small clearing near the stream. There was a circle of flat stones on the ground, like someone had built a fire pit there long ago. Old ashes sat inside the ring of stones. "Someone was here before us," Sam said. Lena knelt down and touched the ashes. "A long time ago," she said. "Years, maybe." They built a fire in the old fire pit and set up their tents on opposite sides of the clearing. The night came fast in the forest. One moment there was gray light filtering through the trees, and the next moment it was completely dark. The fire was the only light. Sam sat by the fire and watched the flames. Lena sat across from him, feeding small pieces of food to the bird, which she had named Arrow. "Lena," Sam said, "are you not afraid?" She looked at him over the fire. The light danced in her eyes. "Of course I am afraid," she said. "But I have been working in a factory for 8 years. I stand at a machine for 12 hours a day and press the same button over and over. I come home and eat alone and go to sleep and wake up and do it again. That is what really scares me. That is the life I am afraid of. Not this. Sam understood exactly what she meant. They were the same in a way. Two people who had been living small lives, going through the same days again and again, waiting for something to change. The map had given them both a reason to move. That night, Sam dreamed. He dreamed he was standing in a golden field. The sky was bright blue, and the sun was warm on his face. In the middle of the field, there was a door. Just a door, standing by itself, with no walls around it. It was made of dark wood, with gold handles. Sam walked toward it. He reached for the handle, but just before he could touch it, a voice spoke from behind him. "Are you sure?" the voice said. Sam turned around, but there was nobody there, just the golden field stretching out in every direction. He woke up with his heart beating fast. The fire had gone out. The clearing was dark. He could hear Lena breathing softly in her tent. The forest was quiet, but the humming sound was still there, low and steady, like a heartbeat. Sam lay in the dark and thought about the door in his dream. He thought about what Lena had said, about Orumvale being a test. He thought about the old woman's father, who came back and never spoke again. What had he seen? What truth had he learned about himself that was so terrible he could not live with it? Sam did not sleep again that night. When the first gray light appeared through the trees, he got up and started packing. Lena came out of her tent a few minutes later. Arrow sat on her shoulder. "You did not sleep," she said, looking at his face. "I had a dream," Sam said, "about a door." Lena's face went pale. She stared at him for a long moment. "I had the same dream," she whispered. "A golden field, a door standing alone, and a voice that asked if I was sure." They looked at each other. The forest hummed around them. The stream moved slowly through the trees. Something was waiting for them ahead. Something that already knew they were coming. They packed their things in silence and followed the stream deeper into the heart of Blackwood Forest. The third day in Blackwood Forest was different from the first two. The trees were no longer just strange. They were wrong. Their branches moved even when there was no wind. Their bark had patterns that looked like faces, and the faces seemed to follow Sam and Lena as they walked past. The stream they had been following had changed color. It was no longer clear and silver. It was dark, almost black, and it moved slower, like thick oil. Lena walked ahead with Arrow on her shoulder. The little bird had stopped singing. It sat still and quiet, its small black eyes watching the trees. Sam walked behind Lena, checking the map every few minutes. According to the map, they were getting close. The red circle was no more than a day's walk away. But the path was getting harder. The ground was soft and uneven. Roots rose out of the earth like traps, and more than once, Sam tripped and fell on his hands. Around midday, they came to a place where the stream split into two. One branch went to the left, and the other went to the right. Sam looked at the map, but the map only showed one stream. There was no split. "Which way?" Lena asked. Sam studied both branches. The left one was wider and seemed easier to follow. The right one was narrow and disappeared into a dark part of the forest where the trees grew so close together that there was almost no space between them. Something about the right path felt familiar to Sam, though he could not explain why. "Right," he said. Lena looked at the narrow path and then at Sam. "Are you sure?" "No," he said, "but the easy path is never the right one in places like this." They pushed through the thick trees along the right branch of the stream. Branches pulled at their clothes and scratched their skin. The air became thick and heavy, and it was hard to breathe. Sam felt like the forest was trying to push them back, like it did not want them to go any further. Then suddenly, the trees opened up, and they stepped into a wide space. It was a valley, hidden deep inside the forest. The ground was covered in grass that was greener than any grass Sam had ever seen. Flowers grew everywhere, in colors that did not look real. bright purple, deep gold, shining white. In the middle of the valley, there was a lake. The water was perfectly still, like a mirror, and it reflected the gray sky above. On the far side of the lake, there was a stone building. It was old and partly broken. Walls had fallen down, and the roof was gone in many places. But it was clearly something that people had built a long time ago. It had tall columns and wide steps leading up to an entrance. Aurum Vale, Lena whispered. After all the walking, after the fear, and the strange dreams and the dark forest, they had found it. It was real. Sam felt his legs go weak, and he sat down on the grass. His hands were shaking. Lena sat down next to him. Arrow jumped off her shoulder and hopped around in the grass, looking at the bright flowers. For a long time, neither of them spoke. "It is beautiful," Lena said finally. It was beautiful, but Sam felt something else too. Underneath the beauty, there was a feeling that he could not put into words. It was like standing on the edge of a very high cliff. The view was wonderful, but one step in the wrong direction meant falling. They walked down into the valley slowly. The grass was soft under their feet, and the flowers had a sweet smell that made Sam feel dizzy. As they got closer to the lake, Sam noticed something in the water. At first, he thought it was just the reflection of the clouds, but then he looked more carefully. The water was not reflecting the sky, it was showing something else. He leaned over the edge of the lake and looked down. In the water, he saw a room. It was a small, dark room with a single chair and a table. On the table, there was a candle, and sitting in the chair was a man. The man looked tired and old. His shoulders were bent, and his eyes were empty. He was staring at nothing. Sam pulled back from the water. His heart was beating hard. "Lena, come look at this." Lena walked to the edge of the lake and looked down. She stared for a long time, and then she stood up quickly. Her face was white. "What did you see?" Sam asked. "A woman," Lena said. Her voice was shaking. "Standing in a factory, pressing a button. She was old. She looked like she had been pressing that button for 50 years. She looked like she was already dead." Lena rubbed her eyes. "It was me, Sam. It was me if I go back to my old life." Sam looked at the water again. The man in the chair. The empty eyes. Was that him? Was that what he would become if he went back to Millbrook, back to the shop, back to the same days over and over? They moved away from the lake and walked toward the stone building. Up close, it was even bigger than it had looked from across the valley. The columns were as wide as old trees, and the steps were made of white stone that was still smooth after what must have been hundreds of years. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, the same kind of markings that Sam had seen on the wooden box the old woman had brought to his shop. They climbed the steps and entered through the tall doorway. Inside, the building was one large room. The floor was made of dark stone, and in the center of the room there was a raised platform. On the platform there were two things. The first was a golden chest, about the size of a small table. It glowed with a soft, warm light, and Sam could feel heat coming from it, even from across the room. The second thing was a stone tablet, standing upright next to the chest. Words were carved into the tablet. Sam walked closer and read the words. They were in simple language, easy to understand. "To take what is inside, you must leave what you carry. The chest holds what you want most, but you must give what you hold most dear. There is no trick, there is no lie. This is the price. Decide." Sam read the words 3 times. Then he looked at Lena. She had read them too. Her face was serious and still. "What does it mean?" Sam asked. "Leave what we carry? Our bags? Our supplies?" Lena shook her head slowly. "I do not think it means our bags. I think it means something else. Something inside us. Something we carry in our hearts." They sat down on the cold stone floor and thought. The golden chest glowed softly in front of them. It was warm and inviting, like a fire on a cold night. Sam wanted to open it. Every part of him wanted to open it, but the words on the tablet held him back. What did he hold most dear? What was the thing he would have to give up? He thought about his life in Millbrook. He thought about the shop. He thought about the quiet evenings alone in his house. He thought about the feeling of safety that came with knowing exactly what every day would bring. Was that what he held most dear? The safety of a boring life? Lena stood up and walked around the room. She ran her fingers along the walls, touching the carvings. Arrow sat on her shoulder and watched everything with his small bright eyes. Sam, she said after a while, this place is the test I was talking about. The map brought us here, and now we have to choose. We can open the chest, but we have to give up something important. Or we can turn around and go home, and never know what was inside. What are you going to do? Sam asked. Lena stopped walking and looked at the golden chest. The light from it fell on her face, making her skin glow. I am going to sleep on it, she said. We have come a long way. We should not decide in a hurry. They set up camp inside the stone building. The floor was hard, but the walls kept the wind out, and the warmth from the golden chest made the room comfortable. They ate the last of their food and drank water from their bottles. Outside, the sky grew dark, and the strange valley disappeared into shadows. That night, Sam dreamed again. He saw the door in the golden field. This time, he walked up to it and put his hand on the handle. The handle was warm. He could hear something on the other side. It was not a sound exactly. It was a feeling. It felt like everything he had ever wanted was just on the other side of that door. The voice came again from behind him. Are you sure? This time Sam answered. No, he said, but I am going to open it anyway. He turned the handle and pushed. The door began to open. Light poured through the crack, golden and bright, filling the field, filling everything. Morning light came through the broken roof of the stone building and fell across Sam's face. He opened his eyes and lay still for a moment, thinking about his dream. The door, the golden light, the feeling that everything he wanted was on the other side. He sat up and looked around the room. The golden chest still sat on the platform, glowing softly. The stone tablet still stood beside it, with its carved words. But something was different. Lena was already awake. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, in front of the golden chest, staring at it. Arrow was not on her shoulder. The little bird was sitting on top of the stone tablet, perfectly still, as if he too was reading the words carved into the stone. How long have you been sitting there? Sam asked. A few hours, Lena said without turning around. I had the dream again, the door, the golden field, but this time I opened it. Sam felt a jolt go through his body. What did you see? Lena was quiet for a long moment. I saw myself, she said. But not the version I saw in the lake, not the old woman pressing the button in the factory. I saw a different version, a version of me that was free. She was standing on a mountain, looking out at the world. She had nothing, no house, no money, no job. But she was the happiest person I have ever seen. Lena turned to face Sam. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. Sam, I think I understand what the chest wants us to give up. Sam walked over and sat down next to her. Tell me. It is not a thing, Lena said. It is not our bags, or our supplies, or anything we can touch. It is the thing that holds us back, the thing that keeps us small. For me, it is fear. I have been afraid my whole life, afraid of losing my job, afraid of being alone, afraid of not having enough money, afraid of what people would think. That is what I hold most dear, even though I hate it, because fear kept me safe. Fear kept me in the factory. Fear gave me a routine, a pattern, a life that was boring but safe. Sam thought about her words. They hit him hard because he knew exactly what she meant. He had the same thing inside him. His version was not fear exactly. It was something else. It was comfort. The comfort of knowing what every day would bring. The comfort of never being surprised, never being hurt, never being disappointed. He had built his whole life around that comfort. His small house, his quiet job, his empty evenings. He had chosen comfort over everything else, and it had cost him his life. Not his breathing and his heartbeat. Those were still there. But the real life, the one with risk and love and adventure and pain, that life he had traded away for the safety of sameness. I think mine is comfort, Sam said. The comfort of staying the same. So the question is, can we give that up? Can we really let go of the thing that has been holding us together all these years? They sat in silence. The golden chest hummed softly. The light coming from it was warmer now, as if it knew they were getting closer to a decision. Sam looked at the chest and felt the pull again, the same pull he had felt when he first saw the map, the rope around his chest, pulling him forward. But then something happened that neither of them expected. A sound came from outside the building, footsteps on the stone steps, heavy, slow footsteps. Sam and Lena both jumped to their feet. Arrow flew off the tablet and landed on Lena's shoulder, making sharp, nervous sounds. A man appeared in the doorway. He was tall and thin, with gray hair and a long gray coat. His face was sharp, with high cheekbones and deep-set eyes that were pale blue, almost white. He carried a walking stick made of dark wood, and on his back he had a large leather bag. He stood in the doorway and looked at Sam and Lena with no surprise on his face, as if he had been expecting to find them there. "So," he said, "2 more seekers." His voice was smooth and cold, like a stone at the bottom of a river. "Who are you?" Sam asked. He stepped in front of Lena without thinking about it. The man walked into the room slowly, his walking stick tapping on the stone floor. "My name is Victor. I have been coming to this place for 20 years. I was the first person to find it in modern times. I have studied it. I know its secrets." He stopped a few feet from the golden chest and looked at it with a strange expression. It was not greed. It was something more complicated. Hunger mixed with hatred. 20 years, Lena said. "You have been here for 20 years. Victor smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "Not here all the time. I come and go. I have tried to open the chest many times. Every time, it asks for the same thing. Something I carry. Something I hold dear. And every time, I give it something. A memory, a belief, a feeling. And every time, it is not enough. The chest stays closed." Sam looked at Victor carefully. There was something wrong with the man. Not in the way he looked, but in the way he felt. Standing near him was like standing next to a hole, like parts of him were missing. "You said you gave it memories and feelings," Sam said. "What happened to them?" Victor's smile faded. "They are gone. I cannot remember my mother's face. I cannot feel love. I cannot feel joy. I gave those things to the chest, one by one, trying to find the right price. But the chest took them and stayed closed. It wants something specific, and I have not been able to figure out what." Lena looked horrified. "That is terrible. Why do you keep coming back?" Victor's pale eyes moved to the golden chest. "Because I need to know what is inside. That need is the only thing I have left. Everything else I have already given away." Sam felt cold. He looked at Victor and saw what the stone tablet's warning really meant. Victor had been giving up pieces of himself for 20 years, and he had become empty. He was like a house with no furniture, no pictures on the walls, no warmth. He was still standing, but there was nothing left inside. "You are giving the wrong things," Sam said suddenly. The words came out before he had time to think about them. Victor looked at him sharply. "What did you say?" Sam's mind was racing. "The tablet says to give up what you hold most dear. You have been giving up good things. Love, joy, memories of your mother. Those are precious things, but they are not what holds you back. They are what makes you human. The chest does not want those things." Victor stared at Sam. "Then, what does it want?" "It wants the thing you refuse to give up," Sam said. "The thing that keeps you coming back here year after year. It wants your need to control, your need to win, your need to have the answer. That is what you hold most dear. Not love, not joy. Those were easy for you to give up, because deep down, they were not the things that defined you. Your need to conquer this place, your pride, your refusal to accept that some things cannot be taken by force. That is what the chest is asking for." The room was silent. Victor stood perfectly still. The golden chest hummed between them. Lena held her breath. Arrow pressed close to her neck. Then Victor's face changed. The coldness left it, and for just a moment, Sam saw something underneath. He saw a young man who had walked into this forest 20 years ago, full of excitement and hope. A young man who had become a ghost, piece by piece, because he had never understood the simple truth that was carved right there on the stone tablet. But the moment passed. Victor's face closed again like a door slamming shut. His eyes went hard and cold. "You know nothing," Victor said quietly. "I have spent 20 years studying this place. You have been here for one night. You are a shopkeeper from a small town. Do not tell me what the chest wants." He turned and walked toward the doorway. At the entrance, he stopped and looked back over his shoulder. "I will be back tonight," he said. "I suggest you make your decision and leave before I return. This place is mine. I found it first, and I will open that chest no matter what it costs." He walked down the stone steps and disappeared into the valley. Sam and Lena watched him go. "He is dangerous," Lena said softly. Sam nodded. "He has nothing left to lose. That makes a person dangerous." They looked at the golden chest. They looked at each other. The morning light was fading as clouds rolled across the sky above the broken roof. They did not have much time. Victor would come back, and when he did, Sam did not know what he would do. They had to decide. Open the chest or leave. Give up what they carried or walk away with it. The easy thing was to leave, to go back to their safe, small lives. But Sam thought about the man in the lake, sitting in his dark room with empty eyes. He thought about Lena's woman pressing the button forever. Those were the lives waiting for them if they walked away. Sam sat down in front of the chest and closed his eyes. He thought about comfort. He thought about his small house, his quiet shop, his empty evenings. He held those things in his mind like a handful of sand. And then slowly, he opened his fingers and let them go. Sam sat on the cold stone floor with his eyes closed and his hands open on his knees. He thought about comfort. He thought about the warm feeling of knowing exactly what every day would bring. He thought about his house in Millbrook, the shop, the clock on the wall that ticked the same way every second of every day. He thought about how he had wrapped himself in sameness like a blanket, how he had used routine to protect himself from the world. And he let it go. Not in one big moment. It was slow, like water draining from a bathtub. He felt the comfort leaving his body, leaving his chest, leaving his mind. And as it left, he felt something else take its place. It was not happiness. It was not joy. It was emptiness, but not the cold emptiness that Victor had. It was a warm emptiness, a space where something new could grow. He opened his eyes. The golden chest was still there on the platform, still glowing. For a terrible second, Sam thought it had not worked. He thought he had given up his comfort for nothing, just like Victor had given up his love and his memories for nothing. But then Lena stepped forward. She stood in front of the chest and closed her eyes. Sam watched her. Her face was tight with concentration. Her hands were clenched at her sides. Arrow sat on her shoulder and watched with his small bright eyes. Lena's lips moved, but no sound came out. She was talking to herself, or maybe she was talking to the chest. Minutes passed. Then Lena opened her hands. Her fingers spread wide, and her body relaxed. The tightness left her face. She opened her eyes and they were clear. The fear that had been living behind her eyes, the fear that Sam had noticed but never mentioned, was gone. The moment Lena opened her eyes, the golden chest made a sound. It was like a bell ringing, deep and low, and it echoed through the stone room and out into the valley. The light from the chest grew brighter. Sam shielded his eyes. Lena stepped back. An arrow flew off her shoulder and circled the room. The lid of the chest opened by itself. It rose slowly, like a flower opening in the morning sun. Golden light poured out, filling the room, filling the air, filling everything. Sam could not see for a moment. The light was too bright, too warm, too much. He closed his eyes and felt the warmth wash over him like water. When the light faded and Sam opened his eyes, he looked inside the chest. He expected gold. He expected jewels. He expected some great treasure that would explain why people had traveled through dangerous forests and given up parts of themselves to find this place. The chest was empty. Sam stared. Lena stared. They looked at each other, and for a moment, neither of them knew what to say. "It is empty," Sam said. His voice sounded strange in the quiet room. Lena walked to the chest and looked inside. She ran her hand along the bottom. There was nothing, just smooth golden wood. She stood up and looked around the room, as if the treasure might be hiding somewhere else. But there was nothing, just stone walls, the old platform, and the tablet with its carved words. Sam felt something rising in his chest. He was not sure if it was anger or sadness or something else entirely. He had walked for days. He had faced his fears. He had given up the thing he held most dear. And the chest was empty. But then Lena started to laugh. It was not a small laugh. It was a big, open, full laugh that came from deep inside her. She threw her head back and laughed at the broken roof and the gray sky above. Arrow landed on her shoulder and tilted his head, confused by the sound. "Lena," Sam said, "why are you laughing?" Lena wiped tears from her eyes. "Because the chest was never the point, Sam. Do you not see? The treasure was not inside the chest. The treasure was what happened to us when we let go. Look at yourself. Feel what is inside you right now. You are not the same person who walked into this forest 3 days ago. You gave up your comfort, and now you are free. I gave up my fear, and now I am free. That is the treasure. That is what Orumvale gives you." Sam stood still and thought about her words. He looked inside himself, the way a person might look into a room. And Lena was right. Something had changed. The old Sam, the one who was afraid of change, the one who hid behind routine, that Sam was gone. In his place was someone new. Someone who did not know what tomorrow would bring, and for the first time in his life, that felt like a good thing instead of a terrifying one. He started to smile. Then he started to laugh too. They stood in the ancient stone building, in the middle of a hidden valley, in the middle of a dark forest. And they laughed together until their stomachs hurt and their voices echoed off the broken walls. When the laughter finally stopped, they heard footsteps outside. Victor appeared in the doorway. His face was pale, and his eyes moved quickly between Sam, Lena, and the open chest. He walked to the platform and looked inside the chest. He stared at the empty space for a long time. "Empty," he said. His voice was flat and dead. "It is empty." "It was always empty," Sam said gently. "The treasure is not a thing, Victor. The treasure is the change. The chest asks you to give up what holds you back, and when you do, you become free. That is the gift. Victor looked at Sam with his pale, empty eyes. Free, he repeated, as if the word meant nothing to him. I gave up my love, my joy, my memories. And you are telling me the treasure is just a feeling? It is not just a feeling, Lena said. She walked toward Victor slowly, the way a person might walk toward a wounded animal. Victor, you still have a chance. You gave up the wrong things, but the right thing is still inside you. Your need to win, your pride, your need to control this place. Let those go, and you will feel what we feel. Victor stood very still. His sharp face was like a mask. Behind the mask, something was moving. Sam could see it in his eyes. A war was happening inside Victor. 20 years of stubbornness and pride, fighting against the simple truth that was standing right in front of him. Then Victor's shoulders dropped. His walking stick fell from his hand and clattered on the stone floor. His eyes closed, and his body seemed to fold in on itself, like a building whose foundation had just been removed. He did not fall, he just became smaller. The hard edges of his face softened. The coldness left his body. When he opened his eyes, they were different. They were not pale and empty anymore. They were blue, real blue, like the sky on a clear day, and they were wet with tears. I can feel it, he whispered. I can feel everything again. Lena touched his arm. Arrow flew from her shoulder and landed on Victor's. The old man looked at the bird, and something that had not been on his face for 20 years appeared. A smile. A real, warm, human smile. They left Autumnvale together the next morning. The three of them walked through the valley, past the still lake, and back into Blackwood Forest. The forest felt different on the way out. The trees still had their strange shapes, but they did not feel threatening anymore. The humming sound was still there, but it sounded like music now, instead of a warning. The stream guided them back, and the walk that had taken days going in seemed to take only hours going out. When they reached the edge of the forest, the sun was setting. The Greywater River stretched out before them, and beyond it, the green hills rolled south toward Millbrook. Sam looked back at the forest one last time. From the outside, it still looked dark and dangerous. But he knew what was inside it now. He knew the secret. Victor shook Sam's hand, and then Lena's. I am going north, he said. I have family I have not seen in 20 years. I want to see if they remember me. He paused. I want to see if I can remember how to be part of a family again. He walked away along the river, his gray coat catching the wind. Arrow flew after him and landed on his shoulder. Lena watched the bird go with a sad smile. He needs Arrow more than I do, she said. They did not talk much, but the silence between them was comfortable. When they reached the point where the road split, one path leading to Millbrook and the other leading east toward Lena's town, they stopped. What will you do now? Sam asked. Lena looked down the eastern road. I am not going back to the factory, she said. I do not know what I am going to do, but it will not be that. Maybe I will travel. Maybe I will find something new. She looked at Sam. What about you? Sam thought about Millbrook. He thought about his house and his shop. He could go back. The town would still be there, the same as always. But he would not be the same. And a life that does not fit anymore is worse than no life at all. I think I will come with you, Sam said, if that is all right. Lena smiled. It was the brightest thing Sam had seen since the golden light of the chest. I was hoping you would say that. They turned away from Millbrook and walked east together, into the setting sun, into a future that was unknown and uncertain and completely, wonderfully free. Behind them, somewhere deep in Blackwood Forest, in a hidden valley beside a still lake, the golden chest sat on its stone platform. Its lid was open. Its inside was empty. And it waited, as it had always waited, for the next person brave enough to follow the map, walk through the dark, and discover that the greatest treasure a person can find is the courage to let go of what holds them back.